Welcome back to the Daily Rift Herald. Today's breaking news is the Esports Nations Cup has been postponed until next year. And Davis, there was a lot going on between teams trying to make their teams, a lot of tournaments being either postponed or put ahead, like Kespa Cup is going on right now because for Esports Nations Cup was going to be played on later in the year in November.
Yep.
Now it's gone. This is, a lot of teams, a lot of countries putting a lot of work into this. This kind of feels like a slap in the face to them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not just for league as well. All kinds of other esports that are going to be represented at Esports Nations Cup, they've all been postponed. So very, very sad to see. But I think it was done for the right reasons, obviously, because of the ongoing conflict over there. But obviously, like you said, it's just kind of tough for these other organizations that kind of push their schedules back or they move their players around, or they were trying to even figure out if they were going to let their players play in this event, and then they finally got everything lined up, and it's like, actually, no, we're just going to wait till next year.
Let's talk about the big dog in the room right now, Korea. We had T1, not just T1, all of T1, but all the organizations, it was Kespa themselves, backing out, coming back after they're able to, get the roster that they want in. Obviously, they made this roster. It will be the same roster for the Asia Games. So they had this whole plan lined up. We know how strict they are with allowing what players to play.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see the same team? Do you think we'll even see Faker in the next year for the Nations Cup if it's going to be postponed a year?
Well, it's just interesting because, like you said, like they have their way of picking the team, and so they're going to do that again next year. I don't think that they'll honor this. I think they're going to honor the fact that they have standards that need to be met, and they're going to pick the players that they think earned that right to play. And it's just going to be based on this year's games now versus last year's games to pick this team. So, I mean, this was obviously going to be a great team, and South Korea is always going to have a great team. There's no question about that. So, no doubts they're going to be able to compete next year too. But it's like, if you're a super big fan and you were looking forward to this team representing them at this cup, it's like, well, now we might not even see it.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's going to be hard. And the big part of this is that obviously there was the qualifier points that go into it, and they're taking that off of, how have these players done domestically, internationally, and then when you have that roster being locked in, it gives them a certain amount of points, which allows them to either skip the qualifiers and go directly into the main event. And now I'm taking a look at this. What happens, if some of these players, aren't on tier 1 teams next year? What happens if they do that? Are we going to see a whole new, big swap with who's already in the qualifier? Because they've had qualifiers from a lot of these games already being played for teams to make it throughout Europe, throughout South America, and other regions. So it's just kind of weird to me. Are those teams honored to stay in? But what if they have to make roster changes? What if there's a glow-up player that makes the next roster, or a player that, has been doing really well this year and just falls off? It just seems all out of sorts.
And I think that's where it will get dicey as well when you look at nations other than South Korea. Because like you said, with Kespa, they kind of have their system of like, hey, we're going to follow this, and that's going to be our guidelines to picking these teams. But when you look at other nations that don't have that organization to kind of guide them, it's like you said, do we go with this team that we picked and we had these qualifiers and these players play to earn this opportunity to play? They won, and now they're not going to have a tournament, or do we run qualifiers again to see a new team? So it's going to definitely be dicey and interesting. In my opinion, I think we're going to see some of these teams honored to play again next year just simply because they won the qualifier. And they're going to treat it as if like it's almost like it is the 2026 Esports Nations Cup. Obviously, it's in 2027 and was moved a year back, but they're going to have that mentality of like, look, this team, maybe it actually gives them a little bit more of an advantage too, because now they're going to be able to have a little bit more time, maybe in the off season, to play together, maybe start, developing some type of strategy. But patches and meta will be completely different. But
exactly. So USC, we've seen Team USA. Do you think there's going to be any changes we made? Because that was a pretty good team already, but we're taking a look at the likes of like APA in the mid lane, who's been replaced for Loki. He's not playing tier 1 right now.
Yeah.
We have jungler with Blabber, who's been kind of on and off, but what happens if Griffin just completely glows up? Granted, he is a sub, so they could interchange that. But I mean, mid's probably what we're looking at the most right now here.
Yeah. And I mean, if you talk about like the performance this week, Darkwings, he was lights out against Lyon. So if he continues to play well, does he take APA's spot? I think some things could change. I do think this is a solid team, and it's going to be kind of hard for any of these guys to get knocked off their pedestal right now. Other than APA, I think APA is the one that clearly is on the hot seat right now because he's not starting on a tier 1 team currently as we speak. So there could be, some movement there, but.
So there had been talk on when Jet and Betius were doing their little podcast together. They brought up the scenario, and it's no leak, and it's not something that may happen, but they were talking about the hypothetical if MCoy blows up and we see JoJo end up coming back to NA. Think about that. I mean, obviously he would go to Team Canada, but Team Canada, he's listed as a sub right now, not as the main player. He
Yeah.
comes back to NA, maybe Team Canada gets him on the roster in that main slot. That boosts up their points a little bit. I think they're already through into the main event, but that could be something big.
Mhm.
Possibly, maybe Busio changes his mind, comes back to NA,
Yeah.
helps us out on Team USA here. You never know, but it could be
Give
interesting
him
with
another
that
year
year
to think
gap.
about it. You know,
Yep,
another year he's sitting
exactly.
there marinating. He's like, dude, that USA team is looking pretty nice.
Right?
Uh,
We'll have to see. We'll have to see as more information comes to us. We'll go ahead and get jumped on that. But next, we're going to switch over to LCS. We had a actually pretty fun weekend. We had some upsets, some teams that are just glowing up, like Shopify Rebellion. So we're going to jump into it, though. We'll talk about the Lion in the room right now. Being Lion, getting the first loss with
Yep.
Armeo. Unfortunately, he can't go undefeated. And all I saw from that series was basically the meme of the person holding back the unhinged little people, and unfortunately there's no inspired to hold anyone back, so everyone was unhinged. Game one, massive lead, end up dropping it due to that kind of barren self-sacrifice. Everyone wants to go in one by one,
Yeah.
ends up leading to a loss, and unfortunately they just couldn't hold on to the series after that.
Yeah, they just didn't look like themselves this weekend. Even in game two, they did manage to get the win, but they kind of started a little bit rocky in that game. I know there was a big lead on the Hambach. He had
Yeah,
the Kazakhs that he pulled out that was actually kind of
it was
wrecking
sick.
that counter gank that he did bot lane and got the 2 kills. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, I just think that Lion just completely looked a little shocked this weekend. Even, I mean, Saint obviously here, based on his ratings, had like a decent series. But I think Saint even had moments where I just looked at him and I was like, he looks a little bit rattled. Like he's making mistakes that he wasn't making these past few weeks. And it really since MSI until now, like during that time, he was really locked in, playing really well. And it just seemed like this weekend he was a little bit off his game. Same with Dokla. I don't think he had the best series, especially going against Impact. I think that's a matchup that he should win. We haven't been seeing the best Impact recently, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Just I don't really judge it too much. I think that they're ready for Inspired to
Right.
get back,
That's
ready to get back in their
I
groove.
think that's how they feel as well. I mean, to be fair, Dokla did get that nice little 1v1, that solo kill on Impact, though, when he was playing that Olaf. It was
Yeah.
pretty sick. Unfortunately, afterwards, they just kind of got tilted. I was like, you guys got Dragon. You just got Hextech sold. You can leave it. Baron's not going to do anything at this point, so you're going to clear it so quick. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where the Inspired, his nice little mid-game monologues start coming in. If they did that, he would have been able to rein them back, give them a nice little speech mid-game, and then either they may lose that game but win the series, or they still end up winning that game and then win the series themselves. So
Yeah.
he'll be back, not this weekend, though, because they're not playing. He'll be back when they do go to Mexico City, and we'll talk about that a little more next week. But I bet actually everyone's just ready for Inspired to come back. Barmeo, great job, 7-2, pretty good record.
100%. Yeah, coming back here and just getting thrown into a team. Obviously, he's around talented players, but like you just mentioned, when it like Inspires the leader of this team, and there's no question about that. They have talent all around him, but I think that is what was missing the most this week, and you could see it, like you said, when things started to go wrong. Who's going to be there to kind of get the troops back rallied and get them focused on something that they can win through, like their win condition? And I mean, I think it was a good learning opportunity for players like Saint and Berserker and everybody else, Isles, Dokla, everybody to kind of figure out how they can be a leader in those situations. And they did a great job. Like you said, 7-2 record with the substitute jungler being thrown in. Great job, but obviously came up a little short this weekend.
They did. But guess who didn't come up short and is remaining undefeated? That is Team Liquid. This team has come back from MSI, and they have just looked amazing. This seems like all the issues that they were trying to rectify through splits 1 and 2 have finally been rectified. They're now moving forward. I mean, they're beating a lot of teams that they should be beating, but they're beating them in ways that they haven't before.
Yeah.
And this is a team that looks like they could be competing for that #1 spot come playoffs.
Yeah, did exactly what that you would expect them to do in this game against the Skies. Completely gapped them in every single role. It wasn't close by any means. And I look at Quid again. We talked about him last week. Quid played great this week. He's really becoming into that like final form that he was in the end of last year on 100 Thieves. So really exciting to see him back. And also the bot lane. I thought the bot lane, which arguably I think Disguise bot lane is maybe our worst bot lane duo that we have in the league right now. But I mean, Liquid handled them the way you would expect them to do. So they didn't have any mistakes. They kind of just rolled through like you would expect.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So there have been some interviews going out talking about Spawn and his relationship with Lyon because they have been together for so long, and it seems like they've both been giving each other feedback, and they've been kind of working together to get that bot lane back to where it needs to be of what we expect from this duo of Core and Yon. Because we've had so much praise for him over the last couple of years becoming this NA carry. He's our representative. He's bringing us to the promised land back of the days of double lift and sneaky.
He's our modern
Yes.
double lift. Yeah.
And now he's back, and I mean he's just crushing it. But then I just like this whole team playing so well.
Mhm.
Jose is back on top. He just looks amazing playing these aggressive champions. And Morgan in the top lane is really just meshing well with everyone. And I think that was kind of like at points in the earlier splits that they were having a little disconnect from him.
Yeah.
Jose integrated much better into the team, but now we have Morgan who's finally getting that integration as well. May not be popping off all the time, but he's super solid in that top lane.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really exciting for the scene as well. The thing that I think is the best for this Liquid team right now is the confidence that they're gaining. Now, I'm not going to say that they're just going to come back, or when Lyon comes back, Liquid's just going to run over them because of that confidence. But I think that gives them the best shot to rival Lyon, is the confidence that they've built while Lyon's kind of been in this phase where they're not really able to gain confidence because their leader's gone. Like they're just kind of like, let's get by this, let's get inspired back, and then we'll start building. When Liquid's been building this whole time, so it'll be really, really interesting
Oh
when
yeah.
it comes to the
Oh, yeah,
not this coming week, but the next week.
it's gonna be super good. And speaking of building confidence, C9 Loki absolutely popping off, but him in tactical,
Mhm.
just I have to say, if they didn't lock down their starting position this weekend, I don't know what would. I
Yeah.
mean, this is exactly what you want from these two players that you're bringing in. And at this point, I don't think we'll see APA or Sven play unless there's just a catastrophic failure from both of these two players right now.
Yeah, this is a massive weekend for Cloud9, especially after dropping the one game last week to a team that they shouldn't be dropping a game to. They came into this match and they handled their business, and that's what you would expect them to do. And honestly, kind of arguably, you would think against FlyQuest it would be a lot closer than it was. I mean, this is a FlyQuest team that's very good. They have a lot of talent, but Cloud9 came in and they just kind of rolled over them. Very surprising for me. I thought Blabber played pretty decent this series. Still not the old Blabber that we're kind of used to
Yeah.
seeing, where like hyper carries the game, but he wasn't making terrible mistakes like he has in a couple weeks prior. So, like you said, if they didn't earn their starting spot this week, Loki and Tactical, I think they're there to stay.
I have to say, the one thing I really like about Loki, which I don't think we'd be able to see from APA as much, is the lock pick. That lock was just absolutely running it. It was a
Mhm.
menace to the whole entire FlyQuest team, and it just seems like now Loki has kind of settled back in a little bit more. Maybe he's a little more comfortable being back in NA now after his time in Korea.
Yeah.
But on the opposite end, talking about FlyQuest, as you said, right now Masu and Gakos are just kind of there, I guess, and we need to see definitely more of Masu being that leader. He is the veteran presence
Yeah.
on that team right now, and he's just not really playing like it, in my opinion. So if they want to get into that fourth place spot, if they want to be able to contest with the likes of C9, possibly Liquid, or even Line, I feel like they really have to have those two veterans on their team pick up, and then having Gakkos have a little more confidence in his play. He didn't have the most amount of deaths, but again, he's not really, providing too much to the team either. At the same time,
Mhm.
we see, I think, Griffin trying to make up for it sometimes by being super aggressive, kind of like we saw in Split 1, which if we rein him back a little bit, he usually ends up doing a little bit better because he was, winning some of the smite fights against Blabber and, securing objectives. But at the same time, when your whole team's dying afterwards, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. There was just no prior on the map. So, like, Griffin's a tremendous talent. Like, I think he's one of the best strugglers that we have in the scene right now. And if you slot him into a team, like, if you slot him into Liquid right now, where literally every lane is winning, he's going to be just like Jose. Like, they're going to run the map. He's going to have prio everywhere. They're going to get all the objectives. But when you run into those situations where your lanes are a little bit behind, you don't have prio bot side, you're losing dragons, it just becomes hard for a jungler. Like, your camps are getting run over. And we know Griffin doesn't like his camps to be stolen
We
at
know
all.
that.
So it's only bad.
He
from
will
there.
die for the cause. We've seen him do it many times, and probably we're going to see it a couple more times this year until some of that maturity starts setting in for him, where he is allowed to let some of those go. But
I
again,
wanted to shout out one more thing
Go ahead.
before we move on. I thought we had Prime, which Thanatos is obviously one of the
Yes.
best top laners
Okay.
in the there's no question about that. But we had Prime Thanatos back this
did.
week. He was running the map. It was really exciting to see him on the Jace and other champions, like being able to just accelerate the game and carry. We haven't really seen that from him as
know.
much this year.
the Jace looked good, the Renekton looked good, and again, it really locked down Gakkos in that lane for a little while, and then helps the rest of his team just get priority on the rest of the map. All over the place, they looked really good. Vulcan once again, I believe it was player of the weekend coming out, or at least player of that series, which well deserved by him. Again, just he's the one who's been kind of locked down and just making it. I've been on this team. I'm the veteran here in NA, and I'm just going to make sure that we can finally get to Worlds once again and have a good run. Because right now they really deserve that third place spot, and if they continue like this, I think they'd be a pretty good third place team,
Yeah.
or competing for those top two spots as well.
I agree 100%.
So moving on to our last match, which was a very fun match in my opinion, with Dignitas versus Shopify Rebellion. In a lot of ways, it was a lot of fun. First, we did get a win from Dignitas coming out in game number one, which is showing their growth as a team. And this is a team that we've been harping on for so long on sometimes why are they even here? They're just kind of playing like, okay, we just have a spot, but we're not really going to do much.
Mhm.
They're bringing Dardoch. They've been looking a lot better. Still have some issues, but they're getting there. They're getting there.
100%. They look better. And I mean, another like Shopify Rebellion, they're not a bad team
No,
either. Like they have the capabilities to be really good. And I mean, they're the third place team right now or fourth
right,
place team, whatever they are. And they look good as well. They're on good form. So I think this was a good match for Dignitas to get a win in. And also game two, although the score line of kills doesn't look like it, it actually wasn't that big
right.
of a gap either. It was like a 30-plus minute game, and they had chances to win that game as well. So I thought they played tremendously well. Same with Shopify Rebellion. The thing that I liked from this series is we got to see Zini on more champions that I want to
Yes,
see him on. He's
that
not
is
playing
exactly it.
Annie and Galio and all these boring champions. He's on Azir, and he's on whoever else,
Silas
Silas,
and
Ari.
Ari. It's just finally in that Silas game, obviously, again, it's one of those maybe his kills don't really reflect what he was doing, but he's making flanks. He's, drawing out a lot of their abilities on him. And at times they weren't able to kill him. He gets out, but then his team has all their cooldowns. So they're able to win fights. They're able to get the kills that they need, secure objectives. And I think Sazel is bringing a good veteran presence. We were kind of iffy about him being brought back in, but it looks like he is definitely helping out the teams in ways that they need it. We've seen definitely better games from Fudge. And then I think if Zini can grow a little bit, and if you haven't seen, they did bring in a positional coach for him as well now.
Mhm.
He will be able to grow. He'll be that player that we expect him to be,
Yeah.
maybe not, as highly rated as before, but if he can just be a solid presence, this team is definitely top four.
Yeah, and he's too good of a player, especially like coming in, like I said, like I've been saying, with all the hype that he's got, and we know the capability that he has from watching him in the LCK Challenger scene. He has the ability to carry games and play these more, not necessarily assassin, but just like champions that can take over fights. And we saw it, like you said, on the Silas, like he's taking the Gnar ult, jumping in, getting big Gnar ults with the Silas ult. Like he can make plays for this team. He doesn't need to be stuck on champions where it's just like you're a big body that has a couple utility abilities. Like you need to be the guy that's going in and really making game-changing moments.
Yeah, and that Zier in game number three was just pivotal. I mean, he poked out or he poked out Dignitas so hard. I think it was on that fourth dragon on that soul. He was just able to get all that damage done as the Azir, and that's what you want. He was also making plays with Bird Divide where he was like baiting in, or he was baiting in Dardoch to try to kill him, and then he forces out ultimates, gets them out. That's a 2v1 that he survives. That means there's a lot more presence around the map for contracts to be able to work. It looked really well. I hope we see more of this. I don't mind the Gallier, the Andy being played every so often. Obviously, there's still good champions, but we know he can play some of these carry champions now. So get them on it, get him more confidence on these. And I think they could actually make a run. This is kind of what we saw last year from Shopify.
Yep.
This split number three just seems to be their sweet spot, and they're making their way towards it right now.
Yeah.
I would be happy if our top six was insanely competitive
Yeah.
going into playoffs.
100%. I think that's the best thing about being an LCS fan right now and watching the games this week is you see that. You see literally our number one team is losing to Sentinels. Sentinels is a good team as well that has the capability to beat anybody. You're seeing Shopify Rebellion grow. You're seeing FlyQuest grow. Obviously, they had a tough week this week, but they're a good team that we've seen upset some of the big dogs. So literally all of the top six teams could beat each other on any given day. So if you're an LCS fan, it's a good time.
It is. We're going to look at this weekend's matches, though. So this is week number 5. So we do have a home ground event for Lyon that will be in week 6. So we are going to have some teams playing each other, and it just happens to be right now the bottom 4 teams will be playing. So we'll see 2 games from each one of them. And I think at this moment, I would say FlyQuest and Sentinels could benefit the most out of these matches,
Yep.
just where they're placed right now, really kind of lock in maybe a playoff spot. I think for Dignitas, it's their best chance to get into a playoff spot. And for DSG, I still think it's just going to be rough.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dignitas and Disguise, they're both going to have maybe a rough weekend. Obviously, they're going to play each other. So somebody is going to get their first win of the split. So that's exciting for them. But I think, like you said, I think FlyQuest, this is a big, big weekend for them. If it doesn't go well, like even losing the game to Sentinels and only getting 1 win if they beat Dignitas, it's still going to be in a rough spot. They're going to be at 2-4, not a great record. They really need to win both matchups this weekend. Same with Sentinels, though. They could really use 2 wins to go to 4-2. So it's going to be that first game right there on Saturday is going to be the big marquee matchup.
I actually just think Saturday is my 2 must-watch matches for the weekend because I think if you take a look at it, Sentinels versus FlyQuest, I think that will kind of prove who gets maybe the edge over one another
Mhm.
going into playoffs, possibly. If FlyQuest wins, that puts them at, 2-3, and then Sentinels will be 2-3, and then you have the tiebreaker with the head-to-head going on there. But then also we have Dignitas versus DSG. And then that one, as you said, who can get that win? If they can get that win, maybe they build some confidence. Maybe they start making a run towards playoffs, or it just shows that what they need to do. Because if you think about DSG, they definitely want confidence going into their promotion relegation match that
Yeah.
they have to play no matter what to retain their spot in the LCS. For Dignitas, it could be the point of, okay, we're actually building something maybe we can work towards next year to where we're not going to be the meme of the scene anymore in the
Yeah.
LCS.
Mhm.
So very big games for everyone. I think it's going to be a lot of fun despite not having the big names going in head to head right now. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the standings one more time. We did talk about it a little bit, but right now, Team Liquid is sitting alone, undefeated right now. Then we have a lot of tiebreakers
Mhm.
ahead of us going into that week 6 that we'll talk about more next week. But Lion, C9, Shopify all sitting at 3-1.
Yeah, 100%. I just wanted to reiterate, like the FlyQuest, they're sitting in that last playoff spot right now, 1-3. The biggest thing is we've talked about in the last two episodes is how hard their matchups have been so far. This is their week. They're
Mhm.
getting some easier matchups. Sentinel's obviously a decent team, but
Yes.
they should be beating Dignitas. They really need to win these two matchups to climb this board and also just to get their confidence back leading into playoffs.
Yep. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. You let us know in the comments below what match you're most excited for this weekend, and if you're excited for Inspired to come back in week number 6. But we'll see you all next time.